Good morning, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, AYCDC's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. And before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your lines unless you are speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure that we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Steve Cohen.
Present.
Sean Austin.
Present.
Present.
Jennifer James. Daniel Coomer.
Hello. Present.
Mara McCaw. Lee Warshevsky.
Present.
Cy Richardson.
Present.
Gib Vacconi.
Present.
Mayor.
Hi, this is Gib. I'm here.
Thanks, Mr. Vacconi. John Hayer.
Present.
And Ethel Tias. Okay. Mr. Cohen, we have a quorum on the line. You may begin.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Ms. Royce. And good morning to everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm Steve Cohen. I was recently appointed by Governor Cuomo to serve as the chair of Empire State Development and also of this corporation. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce a new director who is joining us today, Lee Borshevsky, who was appointed by the mayor. I welcome you all to today's meeting, and I welcome the board, and I appreciate this opportunity to work with all of you and to get to know you. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the Atlantic Yards Community Development Corporation for Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. Before we get started, I'll remind everybody to please mute your phone until you are ready to speak. Also, for the record, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin. I'd also like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I'll also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on today's agenda by submitting written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of today's agenda items. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourselves from any discussion or vote with regard to such items. So if anybody has a conflict, speak now. Hearing no response, I take it that there are no conflicts, and we will proceed with today's agenda. The first item is approval of the minutes of the August 12th, 2019 directors meeting. I'd like to remind anybody who wishes to speak to please state your name, and I will ask if there are any questions, comments, additions, or deletions with respect to the minutes from August 12th, 2019. If not, I will entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
This is Sean Austin.
Terrific. And any second?
Second, Cy Richardson.
Thank you very much. All in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No response, I'll note. Therefore, the motion carries. I'd now like to call Marion Phillips to provide us with his president's report. This item is being presented for your information only, and no vote will be required. Marion, if you would begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Steve, back to the administration. You've served before, and we just welcome you back. Secondly, to all the directors, good morning. And to let you know, Steve is also a great Brooklynite. also is glad to have another Brooklynite back as the chair. Nothing against Howard.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have another Brooklynite back. Also, for the record, let me state, Debbie, that Tamara McCaw has joined us. Tamara, is that correct?
Yes, sorry, yes, Tamara McCaw here, thanks.
Thank you. And also like to welcome Lee to the board, and we're grateful that both of you were able to join today.
Thank you.
It's been a while that we've met, so we're going to cover quite a bit of material in this time frame. The last meeting we had was back in August of 2019, where we discussed a number of modifications to the GPP as the project was advancing. There was a meeting scheduled for December 2019. However, we lost a quorum at the last minute, and the March 2020 meeting was postponed due to the COVID-19 public health crisis. During the March meeting, it was expected that the 2020-2021 fiscal year operating budget of $250,000 would be brought before the directors, along with ESD's contracts with HDR for mitigation monitoring and STV for owner's rep services. However, as part of the agency-wide action, these items, along with other subsidiary and administrative matters, were approved by the ESD directors. Both contracts were extended for 2 years with no changes to the scope of work. I know in the past we had discussed the scope of work on these contracts, and the contract for STV, the owner's rep, remains the same as relates to the HDR contract. The scope of work is defined in the MEC. I will now want to provide to you a project update on the construction. Also on the call with me is Scott Solish and Amir Stein, who are on the line today. Scott works with Greenland USA. Amir works with TF Cornerstone, Amir, TC Cornerstone, which is TF Cornerstone, which is developing B12 and B13. Currently under construction, B4 and B15, both on 6th Avenue. When we last met, both of those were in the foundation excavation phases. In March, they were at the first few floors of superstructure. And as you can see, if you've been around, also from the photos that we sent in the presentation, you will see they are well over 20 floors high. B15, which will house the middle school, is expected to top off towards the end of August. B4, which is expected to top off by the end of September. Commencing construction will be B12 and B13 along Dean Street. Both of those sites will begin construction shortly. The buildings will be constructed at the same time with total development schedule of 36 months. As it relates to the sites and how they have been coming along with the number of workers who are on site in the community, we want to highlight that they have taken up health and safety measures. There are temperature checks before entering the site. A mask is required at all times on the site. The developer and construction team continue to stress to the workers the importance of abiding by physical distancing directives and being a good neighbor while in the community. If an employee or a worker removes their mask while on site or breaks any of these guidelines, they are removed from the site immediately. B5, permits for B5 have been sought. This is the first building over the rail yards along Atlantic Avenue. They've been filed with DOB. This is initial permit filing and the start of the long design review process. Once available, information on the construction schedule will be provided to you. As relates to the LIRR, the developer is working on final approval from the railroad for substantial completion of the permanent rail yards. Once an update is available on the platform construction, a presentation will be made to you as well. We've been discussing this for a while, the Site 5 condemnation. There are no updates on the Site 5 condemnation proceedings or the litigation between FCR and Brookfield and PC Richards. As it relates to the affordable housing obligations, the project's affordable housing obligations remain the same, with buildings completed, under construction, or expected to commence construction, totaling 1,374 affordable housing units. Updates on the housing obligations will be provided to the directors as more information is available. I just do want to repeat before I turn it over to Toby for her community update. We remain steadfast in our support and our determination to have 2,250 units completed. And as you can see, with what's currently completed, what's under construction, and what will commence soon, we're well above 50%. If you look at the photos that were part of this attachment, as you can see, quite a bit of work is going on, and the project is active, and we're very excited about where things are heading. I want to ask Toby to join me at this point and share the community relations update regarding the quality of life meetings.
Good morning, directors. I sincerely hope that you and yours are well in these very interesting times that we're in. We're going to give an overview of the agency's community relations efforts and also some of the quality of life meetings that have been held since our last AYCDC meeting. As noted, there have been a total of 6 quality of life meetings since last summer. 4 were in person and 2 have been held virtually. The virtual meetings are held via Zoom conferencing with presentations from ESD, the developer, and also representatives from the Barclay Center. With regards to the meeting format, attendees are able to submit questions in advance of the meeting or via the Zoom platform's chat feature and also via email directly to ESD staff. A copy of the meeting presentation and also notes from the meeting are posted on ESD's site, so those who may not be able to attend or participate in the meeting are still able to go online and review what was presented and discussed. I'm just going to go over some of the key issues that were discussed over the last few months. Of course, as Marion has just noted, there's been inquiries and discussions with regards to the project's affordable housing obligations and the development schedule for meeting the 2025 deadline. The B12 and B13 design presentation was also made at one of the quality of life meetings. Construction at the Long Island Railroad, the timeline for the rail yard's substantial completion, and also the development of the platform has been discussed. There were concerns and questions that were brought up with regards to construction activities, especially with regards to the construction fences along 6th Avenue. There was a discussion with regards to the B14 open space, and those conditions were addressed by the developer last fall. There was also, at one of our meetings, a discussion specific to B15 and the middle school that will be there. There was a presentation by a representative from the School Construction Authority about the timeline for the school coming online. There's been a promise to schedule further community engagement meetings to discuss coordinating what efforts will be made to address some of the concerns that have been brought up with regards to opening the middle school in the community. There's also been a number of concerns and conversations that have been held regarding the Barclay Center operations, including adding non-ticketed events to the community calendar that's distributed, the flow of traffic for pickups and drop-offs during events, and also the maintenance of the escalator and elevator for the subway entrance that leads to the Arena Plaza. A number of concerns and questions have been brought up with regards to city and state agency representation at the meetings, including the participation of NYC DOT, the Department of Transportation, the local police precinct, and also making sure that we coordinate with those agencies to address quality of life concerns as they're brought to our attention. More recently, of course, as a result of the COVID-19 health crisis and our meetings being held virtually, there have been a number of concerns that have been brought up with regards to construction workers being sure to wear masks while in the community and abiding by the social distancing directives. As Marion explained, that's regularly stressed by the developer and is a requirement for them while on site, and they're encouraged to do so also while in the community. With the increase in the number of protests and civil action that's taken place in the community, specifically at the Barclays Center. There's been the erection of a number of police barricades on the Arena Plaza and also in the community. ESD does not inform, ESD and the developer do not inform NYPD operations with these matters, and the concerns with the placement and the duration of the location of the barricades have been brought before the NYPD, and will provide any updates or any information that's been made available to us as necessary. Please note that the next virtual quality of life meeting is currently scheduled for September 15, 2020, but residents and members of the community with any concerns are able to continue to contact and engage us via email at atlanticyards@esd.ny.gov or by calling 212-803-3736. The Developers Community Liaison Office is also available via email at communityliaison@pacificparkbrooklyn.com or by calling 866-923-5315. With regards to our efforts for engagement, we continue to reach out to the local elected officials and their offices to note if there are any concerns or questions that have been brought to their attention about the project, or if there are any issues that they'd like us to address. That's my very quick summary of activity for today, but if there anything else, I'll be sure to follow up with the directors accordingly.
Mr. Chair, we're prepared to take any questions at this time.
Let's open it up.
This is
Debbie Royce. I just to note that Ethel Tyus has joined the meeting.
Hi, this is Gib Vaconi. I have a few questions on construction status and plans. First question, I'm sorry if I missed this, but can we get an update on the status of the RFP and the hiring process for a contractor to build the platform on Block 1120?
Scott, do you want to give us your status on that? Have you all engaged someone yet?
We are in discussions with a contractor in the Long Island Railroad on approval of that contractor, but we're not ready to make a formal announcement of who that contractor is, pending discussions with the railroad.
Okay, and is there a sense of once the contractor is engaged, how long it will take to mobilize?
Once they're engaged, they would start to mobilize quickly. I mean, it's all pending the construction schedule and timing with the railroad. Okay.
If I could continue, I'd just like to see what the current strategy is with respect to buildings B5, B7, and B6 and affordable housing. It's encouraging to see the report showing that currently completed and pending construction brings us up to 1,374 affordable units. So I'm interested in what the current outlook is for affordable on B5, B6, and B7 to close the remaining gap of 876 units.
I don't believe Scott and Dim have already broken that out yet. Have you, Scott? Have you all done your design on how you plan to, what the program will be for any of those buildings and what the breakdown will be?
No, I mean, as mentioned last year and during quality of life meetings, and I'll just say it again today, it's we filed with the Department of Buildings for the B5 project, and obviously with talking with our partners at ESD, as well as discussing with city and state affordable housing agencies regarding opportunities for affordable housing. I mean, a lot of it, as the conversations we had last year and this year obviously are a lot different given ongoing and ever-changing budget issues. So we'll continue those discussions, but in the meantime, design and planning for those buildings is ongoing, and we fully intend to meet the requirements.
And as I said before to all of you, privately, publicly, the state has no intentions of changing our commitment. Our commitment is still to beat the 2250 by 2025. No request has been made of us, and we're not proactively seeking to amend this. We think part of the purpose of this project was to make sure there was a need of the community was met, and we plan to stick to that. And so I just want to reiterate that to all of you. Go ahead, Gib.
I appreciate that. I would like to also ask if we're still operating under the Exhibit M that was executed effective August 15th, 2019, or if any new Exhibit M has been executed.
I believe that's the most recent Exhibit M. And if not, we'll make sure we circulate that. But I believe that's the most recent Exhibit M.
Okay, that exhibit shows B6 and it shows B5 and B6 at and B7 at 50% affordable.
Yeah, as you know, the Exhibit M is amended every time a new building, when the design guidelines are affected and related to the building. And so as B5 will come online and they will demonstrate what the program will be, what the numbers will be in each unit, that will need to be amended. And so I'm not sure you can really use the current Exhibit M to really project out. The Exhibit M has been amended several times to demonstrate how each building has changed over time. As you do remember, B1, B2 was the first building, then B3 was 100% affordable, B14 became 100% affordable, and each time the Exhibit M had to be amended. And due to the fact they're, let's just say 4 years away from the deadline, I would assume we'll be amending the Exhibit M to accommodate what B5, B6, and B7 will eventually look like.
And the directors will receive a copy of the amendments to Exhibit M as they're executed. Is that correct?
Yes,
not only is that,
Exhibit M will be provided to the directors accordingly.
Yeah, and not only that, but you'll also know when the program changes. The program for each building changes.
Right, I understand. Okay, I'm just gonna repeat the concern that I articulated at the previous directors meetings, which is we're now somewhat less than 4 years away from, or 5 years away from the deadline, and the construction of the rail yard platform, I think we understand, is a little under 3 years in duration. So the concern is only getting larger in terms of meeting the deadline, and that's just for the record. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, this is Cy Richardson. Just a question. I don't know if this was covered in Toby's report, but during the recent uprising and insurrection, were any of the sites damaged or vandalized during the civic engagement unrest during that period? Question.
Scott can confirm this, but no, none of the sites were damaged. There were no issues that were addressed at any of the sites.
Was there any kind of preemptive mitigation, folks protecting or monitoring the sites during that period, day and night, Toby? Just a question.
This is Scott. Thank you for the question. There was no actual damage or destruction of property, except for some minor graffiti, and there was. We usually have security at the sites anyway as part of our provided by the construction manager, but there was nothing additional done. So luckily the sites weren't damaged and were otherwise impacted by the recent activities.
Thank you.
This is Daniel Coomer. I have a question. I was in reviewing the minutes of our last meeting. I was reminded of that our board was evenly divided on the issue of the amendment of the project plan regarding the recreational facility, and I was wondering if there's any update on that in terms of any further action that the ESD board took with regard to that. I suppose while we're at it, if there's any update with respect to that ventilation structures item that we also considered, I'd appreciate having it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I'll answer the first part, and I think Toby may be able to answer If not, Scott can answer the second part related to the ventilation going into the open space. The AYCDC board obviously voting 50% or 4-4, I believe the vote was, obviously had no recommendation to the ESD directors. The ESD directors did approve the modification to the GPP when they met after the AYCDC meeting. As it relates to the ventilation, Toby or Scott, do you have an answer to that?
Sure. Allowing the ventilation structures in the open space were also approved. And I'll note, Director Coomer, that per your recommendation, there were some concerns with regards to the placement of the ventilation structures near the play area for children. And the open space design has been reconfigured to make sure that the ventilation structures and the play area has been moved so that the programming has shifted to accommodate the concerns that were raised by the directors.
Okay, thank you. That's good news. Thank you.
Anything further?
This is Gibb again, if I may.
Go for it.
I was at a community meeting, a virtual meeting, earlier this month, where one of the tenants at 535 Carlton raised some concerns on behalf of other tenants in the buildings, which I'd like to relate to the other directors and to the project sponsors. The first involves tenants receiving their renewal leases in PDF for execution. The PDF forms are not fillable, and that requires the tenants to print very lengthy documents on legal-sized paper, which is not very easy to do right now. Some of the forms the tenants received apparently didn't include the page with the rent calculation, and some of the new rents were calculated in error. And the tenants were not, some of them who have signed renewals have not received executed copies of their renewal leases, although they are being charged new rents. It is necessary for the tenant to get an executed copy of the lease before new rent is charged. I realize there are a lot of challenges going on in management right now, but the tenants are having difficulty, they say, communicating with the management company at 535 Carlton and addressing these issues, and are concerned that there may have been a change in management. So I wanted to find out if there has been a change in management, and if the current management would be willing to meet with the tenants to discuss some of these concerns.
This is Scott. Thank you. There has not been a change in management. Pinnacle City Living has been the managing agent, property manager of both 535 Carlton and 38 6th Avenue since before both buildings were open. What has happened is that the on-site manager left the company in the middle of May. There's a new on-site manager who has taken over for Todd. Todd had been with Pinnacle for many years, and during the in the middle of the COVID, the height of the COVID issue in the spring, had decided that he wanted to pursue other opportunities. Totally Todd's choice. So he was a valued team member. We were able to find a replacement for Todd, who is on board and is fully on site. So there's been no change in the management issue. As you correctly mentioned, Gabe, there has been, obviously, for all companies, not just for the operation of the buildings, obviously challenges of operating while remotely for some things that needed to be done. Of course, we're always available. So the management company is always available to speak with any and all tenants at any times and answer any questions about anyone's lease or rent and make sure that they have all the documents that they need.
who should the tenants, Scott? Who should the tenants be contacting now? And it sounded to me.
There's a continuity. There's a continuity of the email address for all tenants to reach out.
I'm sorry. Do you know what that email address is?
I'll have to find it. I'll search while we're on the phone here.
Okay. My sense during the conversation is there would be an interest among tenants in meeting with management, the management company, virtually as a group. Is that something the management company will be willing to do?
I believe that they've already set that up, or they're in the process of setting up monthly virtual town halls with all the through the.
Okay. Okay. Very, very good. Or if they haven't, then I guess I understand that from your statement that they will do that.
Yeah, I think they're already they're in the process of organizing it. And I believe the email address is Pacific Park MGR, all one word, Pacific Park MGR at pinnacleliving.com. PINNACLELIVING.com. Again, that is for building residents to contact management of the two buildings.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anything further? Hearing nothing further, I would just like to thank you all for the participation. Thank Marion and Toby for those updates. As noted on the agenda, we normally would now have public comments, but no comments were received from the public. There being no comments, I want to. Oh, okay. Who's this?
Matthias with Brooklyn Community Board 8. I don't believe this meeting and the quality of life meeting that was held telephonically are in compliance with the state's open meetings law. Because there's no video. Because there is no video. Okay.
The governor, in his executive order, allowing all public authorities to meet telephonically is what the executive order says, and that would have overruled the initial executive order issued by Governor Spitzer, causing them to saying they all need to be webcast. So the new executive order says they all may be done telephonically.
And so,
and obviously, once we go back to normal settings,
just let me finish my question. It would seem as though AYCDC has the capability to provide video for meetings like this. Is it such
ESD made the decision that all of our subs
expense to reduce this to telephone only, not have any screen sharing, and do the same kind of thing at the quality of life meetings? It truncates the ability of you and your staff to communicate with your audience. I don't understand why you're doing this, and our interpretation of the rule differs. Okay, video conferencing first.
If I can jump in here, first of all, if what you're really asking is in the future you would prefer to do this by video and are making a request, that's something we can consider. I can tell you, having presided over dozens of meetings during the COVID crisis as the chairman of New York Forward, there are times when video has been very helpful. There have been times when video has been counterproductive, but I hear you. That's something we will think about and certainly consider, and I appreciate the input. Frankly, my reading of the executive order is exactly the same as stated by Marion, which is, as a policy or preference matter, it may well be that video is something that would be preferred. I don't think it's a legal obligation. But again, as I noted, I take your point. It's something that will be discussed. As I think you may know, this is my first meeting. I have been in this position for all of, I think by my account, 72 hours. And I'm happy to hear this kind of input, and we'll take it under advisement. Anything else today? If not, I will make one other comment, just picking up on what I just said, which is I am a Brooklynite. I, in fact, raised my 3 kids in Brooklyn. My father and mother are from Brooklyn, and my expectation is my kids will either remain in or return to Brooklyn. And I am delighted to be on this board. I am delighted to work with all of you. And I really do look forward to getting to know all of the board members, but also the members of the community who have an interest in this project. And I appreciate your patience with me. I'm getting up to speed. There was a time when I was in state government and had a lot deeper knowledge of some of the current issues. But if you will be patient with me, I will be available to you. And I really do look forward to doing this in person, hopefully soon.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt. I see your phone number, but I don't see your name. So that's something that's missing since we're only on the phone. Can you repeat your name for me, please? This is Ethel Pius.
Sure, and my name was actually mentioned at the top by both. Okay, that's okay. It's Steve Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. Okay, and I was just, since you missed the beginning, I was just appointed by the governor to chair Empire State Development and this board. And just so you understand the full relationship, I was actually the secretary to the governor when he was first elected in 2010 and served in that position in 2011, was the chief of staff for 4 years in the Attorney General's office when the governor served as Attorney General. My background is as a lawyer. I practice law as both a public lawyer in a U.S. Attorney's office and as a private lawyer in private practice for years in and around New York City. So that's who I am. And again, delighted to get to know all of you. At this point, there being no further business, I will call for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Skip Reconi.
Second?
Second, Cy Richardson, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I believe that we are adjourned. And again, I thank you all for your participation. I look forward to talking to you individually and to getting together hopefully soon under more normal circumstances.
Please use video next time.
I get the request. You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye. You're welcome.